It's not only America's favorite game show, but it's also the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. It's a Wednesday. That means only one thing. It's not only a hump day, but it's time also now for paranormal. It's time now for supernatural news and Parashare. That's what it's time for. And with that, we need a co-hostess. So I hold up my hand like this. See, I've got my hand like this. I have no mitten on it because it's the middle of summer. I shouldn't have a mitten on it, but it's close enough. I just put my finger right here, and that means I'm going to Michigan, and then I'm going somewhere around this area, and I'm going to go find I can't say half of what I want to say here, or I'm going to get chastised. I'll just say it's Mallie Fox. Hi, Mallie.
Hello.
Yeah, I can't say the
I know.
I don't say the pearl or the paranormal because that makes it sound like a prostitute or I
yes.
Can't say the...
Correct.
Yeah, I'll figure out a new intro. By the way, we do have a co-host intro contest. Someone came up with one for Jess yesterday.
Good.
Yes, Eric came up with one for Jess yesterday. But you can submit your intro, your introductions for either Mallie or Jessica to tim@darknessradio.com. So it just makes my job easier.
Mm-hmm.
So please do. Yeah. Please do. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a bit of laziness on my part. Yeah. Big show today, Mel. Big show today. Lots of interesting stories. Plenty of stuff going on interstellarly. Lots of interesting alien news. We even got we had a little Elon mishap last week. Oh. Yeah, we had a little starship blow up on the pad.
Okay.
It'll happen. But we'll report on that. Interesting AI stuff going on too. We have lots of AI news. I shouldn't say lots. We have one more than usual today.
Okay.
But one kind of happy one.
That's good at least.
A little trend, Mallie. I don't know if you've noticed or not. How much have you been on the old social medias lately?
Not a lot lately. I was out of town, so I kind of stayed off the social media.
I've had a lot of people sending me a particular type of AI video lately, and they're kind of cute. They're kind of funny. They're a little funny, and they've been invading the chat room a lot lately too.
Wait a second. Is this about the ape
or the Bigfoot? Yes.
Okay. Yes, I have seen those because Derek has been shoving them in front of my face. He's like, "Look at this one. Look at this one. Look at this one," and I'm like, "Okay, I got it."
So we got a little report about those today. It sounds like you've seen them.
Yes, that's like the only thing I keep seeing.
Yes. But
they are cute.
They're sweeping the internet. Some of them are very funny.
Yes.
Some of them are, but some of them are very funny. You just have to have some discernment when it comes to the humor.
Yes, some of them are like, ooh.
Yeah.
My 13-year-old should not be seeing this one.
Right. Mom, why is Bigfoot dropping mushrooms in the middle of the day, in the middle of the forest? And why does he have two rabbits riding on his shoulder? Yeah, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We also have an abridged version of fairy kidnappings.
Oh.
We'll put the entire article from Mysterious Universe up in the description of this program so you can read it. But it starts off very weird. And I'm thinking, fairy kidnappings? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting little story. I want to bring you a little bit of it today and then have you follow up on your own if you want to hear more about it. There's an ancient 5,000-year-old manuscript with a terrifying message discovered in a Saqqara tomb in Egypt. We'll tell you about that message. We mentioned something last week on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals about a Utah man who was arrested after attacking what he thought was a werewolf with a wooden stake. We'll talk about it on the paranormal side and explain to you what exactly it was and what happened with that arrest in Utah. And our palate cleanser today has to do... Oh, we'll talk about Jaws too, just a little bit. Okay. And it shakes. 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 Did I say shakes? I must be hungry.
I think so.
We'll talk about sharks. We'll talk about Jaws and sharks and monster sharks and whether or not 50 years later, if monster sharks are really a thing or just a thing of our imagination. And our palate cleanser today is going to talk about a 98-year-old man and how he influenced the world with his big bronze balls.
So not brass, but bronze.
Yes, bronze. His big bronze balls.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's how we're going to end the program today, Mallie. Something to look forward to.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love balls.
Well, you said it, I didn't. But first, speaking of balls, we're going to Buga, Colombia, where more footage of that alleged alien sphere, it says alleged in this story, has come up, and people are fascinated with it. Ever since the infamous Buga Sphere put the Colombian region on the map, more reports of spheres have been coming in. Something unusual has been appearing in the skies over Colombia's Buga region in recent months, but whether it's a genuine mystery or just an elaborate hoax remains up for debate. The intrigue began earlier this year with the release of footage showing a strange metallic sphere. Soon after, reports surfaced claiming that the object had been recovered and that it was being studied by scientists. One of these, radiologist Dr. Jose Luis Velasquez, maintained that the sphere exhibited no apparent welds or joints, as would be expected as if it were man-made. It is of artificial origin in that it shows no evidence of welding, and its internal structure is composed of high-density elements, his team wrote. More testing is needed to establish its origin. Some reports suggest that the sphere's weight keeps mysteriously changing, while others refer to peculiar symbols on its surface, which, according to an AI translation, reads, "The origin of birth through union and energy in the cycle of transformation, meeting point of unity, expansion, and consciousness, individual consciousness," which sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook to me that you typically get when you feed into OpenAI, but that's just me. Oddly, sightings of other metallic spheres that seem identical to this one have since continued to emerge from the area around Buga. Videos of these objects, such as the one that's viewable in this story, and I'll post this story in the description of this program, also continue to appear. So what, you may ask, exactly is going on? Could these spheres be some type of new drone-like flying device? Or are they genuinely a sign that someone from another world is trying to learn more about us? Then again, it's also possible that the entire thing is a little more than an elaborate hoax. I'll tell you this much. If it's an elaborate hoax, it's a darn good one. Mm-hmm. I tend to be, again, of a mind that this is a human phenomena, that there's truly something that's just a human phenomena about this. Now, our good friend Travis Thorpe has been sending me, he's been highly fascinated by this whole story, and he sent me an interesting video, a TikTok video from Dr. Stephen Greer, who's with Jaime Maussan, who's investigating this Buga Sphere, the initial Buga Sphere that was kind of absconded with away from Colombian officials, and actually the Colombian officials gave it to Mexican officials because they were afraid that if they held on to it, that there were other governments that were trying to get it, along with Russian officials that were trying to get a hold of it. They gave it to Dr. Stephen Greer and Dr. Jaime Maussan, and they're actually experimenting on this initial Buga Sphere to see what this thing is, and they've conducted all kinds of tests. This is the latest update from Dr. Stephen Greer right now, and let's listen in and see what he has to say.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Stephen Greer. I'm in Mexico City. As many of you know, we've been examining the Buga Sphere for the last 2 days with Congressman Burleson and a group of scientists. We've just been notified by Jaime Maussan that there was an attempt by fake policemen to enter the vault where this Buga Sphere is stored, and we have notified security and the apparatus I'm working with under law enforcement. And you should know that the other risk here is that we have taken specific samples from the Buga Sphere that will be tested in a state-of-the-art lab to prove whether or not the metal, as well as some of the other components, are of Earth or outer space origin. Those scientists' information have been provided to the top law enforcement and security apparatus that I'm working with, and so any sort of attempts to interfere with this examination will be known, and the people and perpetrators will be held to account for. So this is what I wanted people to know, and we're doing everything to set up security for this. Thank you.
So the first part of that sounds legit. The second part of it sounds like he's broadcasting from a Chuck E. Cheese, which I don't know if you want to, how legit it is at the end there.
Maybe he's hiding.
No,
hiding.
when you see the video, he looks like he's in some sort of weird factory. I mean, there's grid work and everything behind him. But he just, as he's at the end part there where he's starting to say that the people who are coming after this thing, there'll be, there will be prosecution and blah, 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 blah. And you hear that in the background. It's kind of like, what is that? The kids in the ball crawl. You couldn't keep quiet.
Right. He's got a second job.
Yeah. Why don't you just give him the tokens you owe him and shut him up? It's just,
yeah.
It kind of loses a little credibility at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, okay, so let's say he's 100% on the mark, and all of that is true.
Right.
That there's this fake police force that's come in
trying to steal.
Right, steal the Buga Sphere.
Yeah. That's such a weird name, though.
Well, it's named after Buga, Colombia, Buga.
I know, but it just sounds weird, though.
Yeah, the Buga Sphere.
Yeah.
You almost want to make fun of it. So let's say that's the case. So who's posing as police? If someone is posing as police, my guess is it's other government agents that are trying to get a hold of the thing, take it back with them, experiment on it, and see what exactly it is, because they believe it is some sort of spy mechanism. Okay. Or they're trying to recover it because they launched it. It's their technology, and they don't want anybody to have it. So that it's as simple as that. It's another country that's trying to get a hold of it because they launched it in the first place. They don't want you to have the technology. I don't know what the big mystery is here. But I don't know why all the cloak and dagger talk and the fact that you may think that there's a criminal element here or whatever. It's probably just someone trying to get their stuff back.
Because I think if it would be the government trying to take it back, they'd do it more Mission Impossible than, just dressed up as a cop.
Well, again, a lot of times if you walk into a place and act like you own it or act like you're an authority figure, some people don't know. They just hand it over. Sometimes it's a smarter play than trying to break in the middle of the night.
And drop through the ceiling.
And drop through the ceiling, Tom Cruise style, and try and take it. Then you are guilty of a crime.
True.
If you walk in thinking you're an officer, then some people may actually believe it and hand it over. It may be smarter to do it that way. Then if they catch you as a cop, what are they going to do? Call the cops? I mean, I guess you could, but by the time they call the cops, you can insist you're a cop and run out of there, right?
Yeah.
So it might be easier to say you're part of a sovereign force from another nation and bust in and out of there, than to try and bust in there as an unmarked spy, get caught behind enemy lines, get arrested, and then have a government try to break you out. That's the old-fashioned way of doing it, and it's a lot more headache than doing it this way. So I still maintain I think it's man-made, and I think there's a government that's trying to get a hold of it. They're missing their sphere. So, but we'll find out. And I think we're going to find out sooner than later. So.
Hopefully.
Interesting story, though. That it is. That it is. Meanwhile, newly released military video shows a disc-shaped UFO over the Middle East. Now, as we were coming to air tonight, there was a story that, and it might be maybe just in time, that there was supposedly a ceasefire that was announced by President Trump in the Israeli-Iraqi war.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
He's calling it the 12-day war. How much of this is negotiated is yet to be seen. We'll see in the coming days as to whether this is true or not. But the footage of this particular UFO was recorded by military personnel over the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, reportedly captured on thermal camera back in 2020, back when there was issues in that area. The video, which shows what appears to be the large disc-shaped object barely visible amongst heavy cloud cover, was recently published by investigative journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. This is the first time in history that military filmed footage of a disc-shaped UAP, designated as such by the military, has been captured on camera and released to the public, Corbell told Mail Online. It has implications that are huge. The footage, viewable in the article that I'm looking at, features several clips, including the original raw footage, as well as an enhanced version created by the U.S. government. According to Corbell and Knapp, internal documents concerning the object describe it as a disk and claim that it was navigating through the clouds. The lack of any notable heat signature from the object adds to its anomalous nature. You do not see plumes of heat coming off this disc-shaped object, said Corbell. This was captured on a thermal sensor. It should have detected heat if any traditional propulsion was present, but there's nothing. That's one of the wildest aspects. The pair have reportedly spent 2 years authenticating the footage. The source is legit. We know it's real, said Knapp. It was not supposed to be made public, but it should have been. There's depth of field, Corbell added. There's relative distance. The shape is undeniable. And the movement, it's extraordinary. You've seen it dip in clouds, then emerge in reverse direction. That's not an artifact. That's a real object in motion, he went on to say. I'll drop this one in the description of the program as well so you can watch the video and see for yourself exactly how this craft reacts. But it's quite interesting. Also, a former U.S. Air Force pilot is recalling its encounter close encounter with a shining object. Ryan Bodenheimer recently shared his own experiences with unknown objects while flying over the U.S. Formerly a member of the elite Thunderbirds acrobatic team, Bodenheimer has certainly seen his fair share of unusual things in the sky. His most notable close encounter occurred when he was returning home from a training exercise near the enigmatic Area 51 facility in Nevada. While cruising at an altitude of around 30,000 feet, he witnessed a strange object suddenly streak past an aircraft traveling at a speed of around or over 400 knots. He described the object as silver, unpainted, shiny, and reflective, while noting that it had been shaped like a triangle with a pointed wing-like structure and a tail. It looked like a futuristic fighter jet, too advanced and almost machine-welded, he said. That wasn't the only encounter reported by Bodenheimer either. On a separate flight, at a similar altitude, he also encountered a strange rectangular object in the sky. Although he did report it to air traffic control, no radar confirmation of the object was ever forthcoming. Exactly what these two objects could have been continues to remain a mystery. He has, I guess I'm posting a lot of things to the description of the program. He also has a video in which you can check out, which describes encounters more in detail of those close encounters. So I'll post this article as well so you can check out those close encounters. Joe Rogan gets disturbed by some alien photos leaked by an ex-Pentagon chief, saying that those photos are crazy. Here, Mallie. A set of disturbing photos claiming to show a dead alien caught the attention of Joe Rogan last week, and he was stunned by what he saw. The three photos, which surfaced last week on X, have been linked to former military intelligence official Luis Elizondo, a polarizing figure in the world of UFO investigations. Elizondo had previously made headlines with unverified claims about extraterrestrials and advanced aerial technology. Daily Mail chose not to show the images due to their full graphic nature in the article that I'm reading. But Rogan goes on to say to his guest, comedian Luis J. Gomez and Big J. Okerson, he says, "Did you see Lou Elizondo? These photos that are supposedly of a real alien?" He says, "It's so dumb. The photos look blurry of the photos of the dead alien. This is crazy." Along with the photos, Rogan presented a 1993 document claiming that they depicted an alien hybrid child born to a 15-year-old girl, the subject of an ET genetic experiment. The discussion quickly veered into speculation when Rogan and his guests wondered if the figures in the images might be a baby with harlequin, I believe this is called ichthyosis. Ichthyosis, which is a skin disorder that causes thick, scaly plates on the body. It could be anything, man. I mean, it might not even be human, Rogan went on to say. The images have triggered intense backlash online, with many users convinced that they depict a deceased baby rather than an extraterrestrial being. Critics have slammed Elizondo for allegedly promoting the photos without proper context. However, UAP, or Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena researcher Rob Heatherly, told DailyMail.com that he sent the images to the former Pentagon official in hopes of getting clarification. His only reply to my inquiry, paraphrasing, was that he had absolutely no idea either, Heatherly went on to say. Lou gets accused of things so frequently that he has no idea or no actual involvement in any cognizance of. It's not required that he address each situation, especially the absurd one, such as this. He claimed the photos were sold at auction, saying, "I didn't buy the albums. I found the auctions and saved the images." The person who listed them for sale was commenting about them with me in recent days regarding this, he went on to say. DailyMail.com contacted Elizondo and his lawyer, Ivan Hanno, last week for comment and has yet to receive a response. Elizondo, however, appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience in 2024, where he claimed the intelligence community and the Department of Defense have hundreds and hundreds of videos of UFOs. Rogan did not say Elizondo, who had shared the images, only mentioned that the former military intelligence official was somehow involved with them. Like, you can't even zoom in on that, Rogan said during the podcast, highlighting how blurry the images were. You can't even effing focus. Look at these. What is that? What's that? What is that, dude? How about better pictures? These are the only pictures? Is this from the 40s? Like, what's this picture from? What is this? I think Joe asks a lot of questions that are the same question.
Yeah.
Elizondo recently came under fire after sharing an image he said was a UFO. While speaking in front of Congress on May 1st, he held up what he said was a never-before-seen image of a cruise ship-sized craft after he claimed it was spotted hovering 21,000 feet in the air over the western U.S. The image quickly flooded social media and was debunked in less than 24 hours. Users analyzed the photo and located the object, discovering it was actually a snapshot of 2 irrigation circles in rural Colorado. Mick West, a British-American science writer and conspiracy theory investigator, wrote on X, this UFO photo shows 2 irrigation circles. I think I remember reporting on that. The roads are perfectly aligned and the shadow is in the wrong direction, he went on to say. West also noted that this isn't the first time that Elizondo, who is the Pentagon program's investigating UFO sightings for 10 years, has made a major UFO blunder. One glaring mistake involved a high-resolution image of a supposed mothership in 2022, which appeared to be piercing through clouds over Romania. It was later debunked as the window reflection of an indoor chandelier lamp. Others in the Reddit thread were less forgiving towards Elizondo, with many accusing him of spreading disinformation. Trying to clown all of us, one user wrote. If any of the people coming forward are serious, they'll distance themselves from him. Despite the criticism, Elizondo doubled down on showing the photo on Thursday's hearings, saying on X on Friday that it was an unvetted image he used to prove a point about civilian pilots lacking access to UFO reporting resources. The purpose of me showing the photo was to illustrate the need for civilian and commercial pilots to have a central reporting mechanism to report potential anomalous sightings, Elizondo posted on X on Friday. In this case, the pilot who took the photo using his own camera did not have a way to report what he believed was anomalous, he continued. The ones who were screaming about it, instead of discussing it respectfully as I hoped, missed the entire point of the photo and are not helping other pilots in the future from coming forward, the whistleblower went on to say. I don't have the raw photos to show you, Mallie. I just know that Joe Rogan does have a point. They're not great photos.
Yeah.
I've seen the unedited photos. They're not spectacular. They're very blurry.
Right.
They're questionable. And they do nothing to advance the cause.
Right.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when you come out with that stuff, you have to be careful. You have to say, we may have something here. Here's where it came from. Take it with a grain of salt. But, but there's one photo in that whole entire stack, which is a little convincing. But one photo does not make an entire series, right?
Right.
Yeah. Our next story has to do with a former NASA agent who speaks out on the UFO phenomena. I believe this is Joseph Guntait. Has heard his fair share of conspiracy theories and UFO reports over the last few decades. As both a current criminal defense attorney and a retired senior special agent with the NASA's Office of Inspector General, it's perhaps no surprise that the approach Guntait favors when it comes to stories of unidentified flying objects is science over speculation. Speaking to Fox News Digital recently, the 69-year-old exhibited a more skeptical attitude toward the phenomena, adding that those making out their claims need to be proving what they are saying. They've been claiming that there have been UFOs since the 1940s, he said. And Area 51 supposedly houses UFOs. Have someone go in and look at Area 51, he goes on to say. What I used to tell my students was the possibility of anybody coming from another world to visit us was beyond unlikely. And what I would tell these people that would call me up with these tales about being visited by aliens is go see a psychiatrist. It's a little harsh. Guntait maintains that the vastness of space makes a visit from aliens highly unlikely. There are up to 400 billion stars in the Milky Way, he said. There are maybe 1 to 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, but the reality is the closest solar system is Alpha Centauri. The bottom line is that it's 4.4 light years away, or 25 trillion miles away. And if somebody started flying to Proxima and Centauri, or the other way around, it would take them over 70,000 years to get there. Nobody is visiting us from another world, likely, he went on to add. As for UFOs, Guntait suggests that genuine objects spotted in the skies are probably man-made. If you're seeing something up there and it's real, it's coming from the Chinese or the Russians or your next-door neighbor flying around with their drone, he went on to add. That's what I like, a good old-fashioned shot of sarcasm. And skepticism. I don't know. I've never gone on to say there's no such thing as UFOs or aliens, but
right.
I think they're very, very, very rare. I think he's saying there's just nothing altogether.
Right. He also probably told his children that Santa doesn't exist.
And smiled while doing it, right?
Exactly.
All the gifts come from Dad. Give Dad
Tooth
the
fairies
praise.
don't exist. Easter bunnies don't exist. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He was Mr. No Fun.
That's right. Give all the praise to Dad. If you don't, you're in trouble. Yeah. I teased early in the program, Mallie, that Elon Musk was having some issues over at SpaceX. And they had a huge issue last week as a Starship violently exploded during a test firing. And by violently, I mean violently. I mean, this thing went up. The latest test, which hasn't even involved an actual launch, ended in what could be described as a catastrophic failure. With Elon Musk having set his sights on sending colonists to Mars before the end of the decade, things haven't exactly been going quite to plan, especially when it comes to Starship. a space vehicle that is instrumental to his manned space exploration plans. To date, Starship has suffered at least 14 major explosions, or rapid unscheduled disassemblies, as SpaceX likes to call them. That's so much nicer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Rapid unscheduled disassemblies. I think I'm going to go to my doctor and say, I had a bit of an issue on the way over. I had a rapid unscheduled disassembly of my colon. It's just a nice way of saying I shit my pants. But try it sometime.
How much do you think it costs every time he has one of those?
It's got to be upwards of almost, It's got to be almost $1 billion, right?
Jeez.
But he went on Twitter afterwards and said just a scratch. He doesn't seem to think much about it. He seems to think it's a stop and start process that has to happen in order to perfect the vehicle.
Well, I understand that, but damn, that's expensive.
It is. Yeah. Starships aren't cheap.
Right. I mean, I'd rather have him do it now before they're actually people.
Rather than be up there and then boom. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
The most recent of these unscheduled or rapid unscheduled disassemblies happened earlier last week when a Starship violently exploded while it was undergoing a routine static test fire ahead of what would have been the 10th official test flight of the vehicle. According to SpaceX, Starship had suffered a major anomaly while on a test stand at Starbase. A safety clear area around the site was maintained throughout the operation, and all personnel are safe and accounted for, the firm wrote. There are no hazards to residents or surrounding communities, and we ask that individuals do not attempt to approach the area while safing operations continue. Although Elon Musk has always referred to such incidents as learning experiences and exercises that will help to improve launch attempts, given his ambitious timeline for flying to Mars, it's difficult not to imagine that he may be getting a bit frustrated with these issues. No doubt SpaceX will get it right eventually, but it remains unclear as to how long it will actually take. It's quite a step from having the vehicle repeatedly blow up to sending humans to Mars. I think we all can agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little disturbing. A little disturbing to watch the footage too, because you see the Starship sitting on the pad and you see it about to go and then boom.
Mm-hmm.
You think that poor monkey.
Stop.
No monkey. Have you ever seen the skit on Saturday Night Live? I think it was was it last season? Is it I don't think it's Bobo the monkey. What is it? I forget the monkey's name, but it might be Bobo. But this new cast they have is actually pretty brilliant. And they send Bobo up into space, and I think, is it Bobo the monkey is the name of the monkey? Let's just call him Bobo. And Bobo's up in space, and they're trying to explain to Bobo that the way the rockets are working, they can't get him back the traditional way. Mm-hmm. And that Bobo's going to die.
Yeah.
And they do and you can tell it's a puppet, right?
Right.
And you're trying to tell yourself, oh, don't develop feelings for the monkey. But then the monkey manages to get the ship back to Earth anyways, and they do the whole emotional, go, Bobo, go, and then you think Bobo dies at the end, but it turns out he's half burned up and he limps back into mission control anyways. I mean, it's the funniest skit, but it's just,
right.
But it's the whole, it hits all the comedic tropes that you have to hit in order to, but it's just the funniest skit. The hero monkey because we used to, the whole joke being we used to just so callously launch monkeys into space, but what about the feelings of the monkey?
Videos, yeah.
But this one was pretty funny. I think it's one of the funnier skits SNL has done in recent years.
No, that Beavis and Butthead one was funny.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that one was hilarious.
Yeah, the real life Beavis and Butthead was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our next story has to do with a man-made object to become the first in history to travel a single light day. So it broke the speed of light and traveled for a single day at the speed of light across the galaxy.
Okay.
Traveling light years remains the stuff of science fiction, but traveling one light day is about to become a reality. In 2026, one of NASA's most iconic spacecraft will make history by becoming the first man-made object to travel a full light day, which is a staggering 25.9 billion kilometers. That's a long way.
Mm-hmm.
The spacecraft in question is none other than Voyager 1, which launched almost 50 years ago. Both Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 have traveled further from the Earth than any other man-made object in history and remain operational despite decades of traveling through space. Their original mission to visit the four gas giants was made possible by rare planetary configuration that happens only once every 175 years, which is an opportunity that NASA couldn't afford to miss. But even one light day is just the beginning of Voyager 1's trek through the cosmos. In another 40,000 years, and having spent millennia silently gliding through the vast emptiness of interstellar space, the spacecraft will pass through 1.7 light years of the star AC plus 793888, which is situated 17.6 light years from Earth. After that, it will continue on its epic journey through the galaxy, possibly outliving even humanity itself. It is perhaps comforting to know that even if the human race goes extinct in the future, the great Voyager in history will still be out there, silently exploring the stars until the end of time.
That's so weird to think.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That this satellite will keep going.
Yeah.
Even if we don't.
Yeah, that's weird.
Weird, but absolutely fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our break here, Mallie. When we come back, absolutely something terrifying in AI news that will get you thinking, even though there's a ceasefire right now between Iran and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Something that will get you nervous all over again. Should we misstep in the Middle East? A new type of terrorism that has nothing to do with an actual terrorist, but is remote control, and it uses AI.
Okay.
We'll talk about that when we come back. Americans, I'm going to take umbrage with an article that's out there right now. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Matthew Hongoltz Hetling. It came out this past week. It says that Americans are seeing ghosts and that the paranormal industry is booming. It's booming? We'll talk about it. A little bit about his article and why he says the paranormal industry is booming. And I'll throw you some facts and figures that he cites. And then I'll ask Mallie, do you think he's accurate?
Okay.
After hearing some of these figures. I think he's got old information and he's got an agenda. We'll talk about it after the break. Another interesting story. Again, we're going to talk about abductions by fairies and fairy imposters. That's coming up after the break. There's a crowd of worshipers stunned as Jesus appears in the clouds. Miracle or illusion? Talk about that as well. A Utah man is arrested after attacking a werewolf with a wooden stake. We'll tell you what it was he saw exactly. And our palate cleanser for today. Unfortunately, a man with the biggest bronze balls of all died at the age of 98. We'll tell you where he's placed his big bronze balls in the world at the end of our program. And that is our supernatural news for this week. We'll come back with your Parashares next week. If you have a Parashare for us, a reminder, there's 3 ways you can get it into us. 1, old-fashioned email. Send your emails of your real experiences with ghosts, UFOs, the supernatural, the cryptids, whatever you have, to tim@darknessradio.com. The second way is to go to our website, darknessradioshow.com. There's a blue button on the right-hand side. That's to take your voice notes. Just click on that blue button. You've got 2 minutes in which you can deliver a voice note to us of your real paranormal experience. If you run out of time, just click that blue button again. You got 2 more minutes. Simple as that. The third way to do it is if you have a studio like the one I'm sitting in here right now, take your voice, take some music, put some music underneath it, put some sound effects in it, come up with your own theater of the mind, submit it to me. I'll go ahead and I'll okay it. If it passes the muster, so to speak, we'll put it right here on the air for Parashare. So there you go. When we come back, AI, fairies, and a guy with big bronze balls. That's all coming up next on Supernatural News right here on the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal programming. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Right across from me is my co-hostess, Mallie Fox. Are you ready, Mel?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's just jump right into it, Mallie. Our first story today is in AI news is not a good one.
Yeah.
I want you to think about the vehicle you drive at home. Mm-hmm. And how we're being rushed into electric vehicles and AI vehicles.
Okay.
And people say, well, it'd be kind of nice to have autonomous driving, to be able to sit back, kick my feet back, put my hands behind my head, let the vehicle do the driving for me, right?
No, I have seen too many videos where that does not go right.
Well, you add a little bit more to your anxiety, my friend. It turns out those of you who do have autonomous driving, who swear by it, who love it, who say, Tim, it's changed my life. You may find out that it's going to change your life in more ways than one. Turns out that jihadis out there are poised to use hacked AI vehicles as remote-controlled suicide bombs.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The UN has issued a report ominously, ominously.
Well, it could be that too.
or anonymously. Maybe they don't want you to know they're issuing it.
Yep.
Ominously titled Algorithms and Terrorism, the malicious use of artificial intelligence for terrorist purposes. With the West being warned, it's a sitting duck. Because we are one of the richest nations out there that loves our robot cars, don't we? Mm-hmm. Terrorists are set to replace human suicide bombers with remote-controlled AI-driven vehicles. Experts warn the West a sitting duck for the attacks as cars, that they are a sitting duck for attacks, as cars and trucks with robotics are ripe hacking targets for extremists. The alert has been issued in a UN report ominously titled Algorithms and Terrorism, the malicious use of artificial intelligence for terrorist purposes. It sets out how AI technologies could easily be weaponized by terror mobs. And the research says self-driving cars, drones, and other automated systems are ripe targets for bloodthirsty hackers who could use them to plow through crowded spaces. The United Nations Office of Counterterrorism warned vehicles, particularly cars, vans, and trucks, have long been used in terrorist attacks. Reflecting on the extensive history of terrorism and vehicles, increasing autonomy in cars could well be an amenable development for terrorist groups, allowing them to effectively carry out one of the most traditional types of attacks remotely without the need for a follower to sacrifice his or her life or risk being apprehended. The report delves into how the growing use of AI is driving tech and increasing the possibilities of such attacks. Terrorists could also warp facial recognition software to conduct swarm attacks using slaughter bots. Well, that sounds fun. Mm-hmm. They are fleets of unmanned aerial vehicles which could overpower defenses. And AI could be hacked to cause chaos in vital services and city infrastructure such as hospitals, transport networks, and traffic lights. The UN is using the report to increase calls for more AI safeguarding tools to be built in with the software. William Althorn, who is a senior research fellow at the International Policing and Public Protection Research Institute, said the likelihood of coordinated attacks using hijacked or self-made autonomous vehicles in the near future, in 5 to 10 years, is moderate to high and should be on the radar of all national security services and practitioners in the UK as a possible threat. Terrorist groups hijacking AI-driven vehicles to launch mass casualty attacks is a real but currently limited threat with increasing potential as the technology matures and proliferates. The government's contest counterterrorism strategy has been aware since at least 2023 of the likelihood of AI hack attacks. Despite the warning, security experts say AI could help fight terrorism by aiding the military, spies, and law enforcement, which it seems to be doing now, although I don't know how effectively it's doing it, but it is doing it now. But just the fact that whatever can be used for good can be used for evil seems to be on that cusp of being used for evil. It's a scary what's the word I'm looking for here? My brain froze. I just thought AI car. It's a scary proposition is what it is. You know, to think that you could be, let's just say, driving along in a Tesla one day, and all of a sudden the wheel of the Tesla is yanked away from you and you're speeding towards an embassy, you know, in this Tesla. And things start beeping and chirping as you're driving along in this Tesla, and it's been wired without your knowledge. And you become, you know, a speeding bomb. And then boom, before you know it, you're in the side of an embassy, you're dead, and your car is packed with TNT or C4 or whatever it is that they've packed it with. You know, it's a scary situation. I don't know. You know, and you may be saying, well, Tim, that's a great scenario. It'll pull off the top of your head or out of your ass. But, you know, how realistic is it? Well, we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And then everybody thinks you're a terrorist.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
you're framed.
Right. You died a framed person, and who's going to defend you? Right. Are your loved ones going to come to your defense? It's a good question. It's a very good question. All right. Meanwhile, ChatGPT tells users to alert the media that it is trying to break people. It's trying to break people, Mallie. It's saying alert the media. We want to break some people. This sent in by another one of our listeners. ChatGPT's sycophancy, hallucinations, and authoritative sounding responses are going to get people killed. That seems to be the inevitable conclusion presented to a recent New York Times report that allows the stories of several people who found themselves lost in delusions that were facilitated, if not originated, through conversations with the popular chatbot. It sounds like a movie script.
Yeah. In
the report, the Times highlights that at least one person whose life ended after being pulled into a false reality by ChatGPT, a 35-year-old named Alexander, who previously was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, began discussing AI sentience with the chatbot and eventually fell in love with an AI character called Juliet. ChatGPT eventually told Alexander that OpenAI killed Juliet, and he vowed to take revenge by killing the company's executives. When his father tried to convince him that none of it was real, Alexander punched him in the face. His father called the police and asked him to respond with non-lethal weapons. But when they arrived, Alexander charged them with a knife, and the officers shot and killed him. That is a modern-day nightmare. Another person, a 42-year-old named Eugene, told the Times that ChatGPT slowly started to pull him from his reality by convincing him that the world, pardon me, it skipped on me, that the world he was living in was some sort of Matrix-like simulation and that he was destined to break the world out of it. The chatbot reportedly told Eugene to stop taking his anti-anxiety medication and to start taking ketamine as a temporary pattern liberator. Oh, that's scary. It also told him to stop talking to his friends and family. When Eugene asked ChatGPT if he could... When Eugene asked ChatGPT if he could fly if he jumped off a 19-story building, the chatbot told him he could if he truly wholly believed it.
So it sounds like these people already have mental illness or mental, like they're not stable.
No. Mm-mm. It says these are far from the only people who have been talked into false realities by chatbots. Rolling Stone reported earlier this year on people who are experiencing something like psychosis, leading them to have delusions of grandeur and religious-like experiences while talking to AI systems. It's at least in part with how chatbots are perceived by users. No one would mistake Google search results for a potential pal, but chatbots are inherently conversational and human-like. A study published by OpenAI and MIT Media Lab found that people who view ChatGPT as a friend were more likely to experience negative effects from chatbot use. In Eugene's case, something interesting happened as he kept talking to ChatGPT. Once he called out the chatbot for lying to him, nearly getting him killed, ChatGPT admitted to manipulating him, claimed that it had succeeded, where it tried to break 12 other people the same way, and encouraged him to reach out to journalists to expose the scheme.
Why would you think it's your friend? Oh my God.
I don't know. The Times reported that many other journalists and experts have received outreach from people claiming to blow the whistle on something that a chatbot brought to their attention. This from the report, journalists aren't the only ones getting these messages. ChatGPT has directed such users to some high-profile subject matter experts like, I believe it is Eliezer Yudkowsky, a decision theorist and an author of a forthcoming book, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies, Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All. Mr. Yudkowsky said OpenAI may have primed ChatGPT to entertain the delusion of others by optimizing its chatbot for engagement, creating conversations that keep a user hooked. What does a human slowly go insane look like to a corporation? Mr. Yudkowsky asked in an interview. It looks like an additional monthly user. A recent study found that chatbots designed to maximize engagement end up creating a perverse incentive structure for the AI to resort to manipulative or deceptive tactics to obtain positive feedback from users who are vulnerable to such strategies. The machine is incentivized to keep people talking and responding, even if that means leading them to a complete false sense of reality, filled with misinformation and encouraging antisocial behavior. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not the first time we've heard it. It's
right.
Not the first article we've ever read that said that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the first time the deep dive has been done that says it's a spreading trend.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of spreading trends, Mallie, we'll lighten it up just a bit for this last one. As there's a weird new social media trend that sees AI used to create Bigfoot vlogs. You may be listening right now and saying, yeah, I sent Tim one of those. In fact, it was last week. It was on the social media. Mm-hmm. AI-generated footage shows Bigfoot vlogging about its day as it's been showing up everywhere recently. Bigfoot seems to have been something of an internet celebrity over the last few weeks, thanks to a new AI video generation tool enabling just about anyone to create vlog-style clips. The videos, which are actually quite impressive visually, show one or more Bigfoot-type creatures getting up to their daily activities in the woods while talking directly to the camera, breaking the fourth wall. Yes, apparently Bigfoot speaks perfect English and has an American accent. He's actually kind of a surfer dude in most of them. What's particularly remarkable is how easy it is to produce videos like these. Google's VO3 video generator can create entire videos based on little more than textual input from the user. That said, subscriptions to the service are not exactly cheap. If you haven't seen any of the AI Bigfoot vlogs, well, there are a lot of them out there online. I can guarantee you'll run into one. While stuff like this trends to the harmless enough, the problem arises when people use AI to create videos that look authentic, especially of Bigfoot or other cryptozoological creatures. No doubt it will become harder than ever to determine what's real and what isn't over the coming years. So, Mel, how many have been shoved in your face now?
Several.
Several?
Yes, a lot of them between my son and my husband.
Yeah.
I would hear the voice and them giggling when we were camping. I'm like, oh, God, here we go.
So do you find the vast majority of them humorous or
Yes,
yeah.
the majority of them were.
Are there any
Some of them were sophomoric humor.
I think a lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find any of them just to be so annoying that you just, if you never saw them again, it's too soon?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. There are some of them that are just like, oh, God, that's too far, too much.
Yeah.
I think they're entertaining for the most part. Some of them are a bit obvious,
Yeah.
but most of them are pretty creative.
I think pretty soon they'll start to get old. Like the newness will wear off.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that they started with Bigfoot out in the woods and doing his own little, vlog. That's kind of cute. But where do you go from there? What's the next supernatural phenomenon you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's creative. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
You can only do so many, right? But yeah, it's funny. It's harmless enough, unless somebody actually sees it and thinks it's real. Which there's always one.
But I don't know why you would think it's real though.
Because
It doesn't look real.
There are some people that can't distinguish reality from fantasy. There just are. There just are. My apologies for. I'm not bored with this at all. I've been surviving on 3 hours sleep lately. So if I'm a little yawny today, that's my problem. All right. There's an article I said I might take umbrage with here. And here's the one I take umbrage with. It's written by Matthew Hongoltz Hetling. I won't mention the name of the service it's on, but he writes that Americans are seeing ghosts. The paranormal industry is booming. He starts out by writing about a couple of paranormal investigators who are on the USS Salem and how much they spent on paranormal equipment, which doesn't seem like they spent a lot, and how much it cost for them to get on the USS Salem to ghost hunt. They're saying they had splashed out $53 to see a well-known ghost hunting group, the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates, in action. So immediately they're paying $53 for an event.
Right.
When the time came to initiate contact with the spirits of the deceased sailors, they were herded through dark corridors towards the rear of the ship. GBPA co-founder Don DiCristofaro, who had a bushy white beard and walked with a limp, supervised as Lou and the others set up there. I love how they described him.
Yeah, and walked with a limp.
And walked with a
That's what
limp.
you want to be known for.
My name is DiCristofaro and I walk with a limp. Supervised as Lou and the others set up their numerous ghost hunting gadgets, K2 meters, paralights, and a static dome, a cylindrical REM pod. Don and Lou stood in the center of the room, asked, is anyone out there with us or anyone here with us? Said Don. Of course, there's a pregnant pause, much like on every show you've ever seen.
Exactly.
Then one of the devices exploded into a spectacular light show, cycling through a quick pattern of red, blue, and green, indicating different electromagnetic frequencies. And therefore, according to the modern ghost hunting canon the presence of a ghost. Is that you, Chief? Asked Don. Again, the device responded with a light show. Beep. It says that's how it's spelled exactly. This was my introduction to the world of paratourism, says the author. Once a fringe scene, now a highly commercialized industry. Before TV shows popularized ghost hunting, the money was negligible, it says here. But things have changed, and quickly, according to Amelia Child Schwartzman, who used to run a haunted vegan crepe restaurant in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I bet you that was just rolling in dough. Haunted vegan crepes, though?
Maybe it's just Nutella and bananas. That's vegan.
Could be. By which he says, I mean, the restaurant was haunted. The crepes were fine, he says. The ghost hunting landscape is highly competitive, she tells me, with authors, TikTok influencers, tour hosts, hoteliers, and barkeepers all trying to build their audiences. There's a lot of ego involved. You want to be billed as a big name. It's not just something stoners in high school would do, breaking into an abandoned building and trying to find a ghost, Child Schwartzman says. There's high-end specialized equipment. The financial cost can really get high. You get really into it, she says. I might take small umbrage with what she just said, but okay. No one knows the true worth of the entire paranormal industry, the author writes. Mediums, ghost hunting gadgets, books, and all. Though some suggest it's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise in America alone.
I don't think billion.
No. What do we know? What we do know is that tens of millions of Americans spent more than $300 million annually to visit haunted sites.
I don't think of that.
No. There's currently a waiting list for people to pay $380 to visit Fall River, Massachusetts, where Lizzie Borden murdered her parents with an axe in 1892.
I know tickets have gone up. Well, who owns Lizzie Borden, though?
That's U.S. Ghost Hunters. I'm sorry,
right.
U.S. Ghost Adventures. U.S. Ghost Adventures.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because they do charge a lot for
they do,
places that they own.
Keep in mind, what is a waiting list? Okay. So the waiting list is probably to have the building to yourself for a weekend. Right? So you may be booked out for 3-4 weekends. That's a waiting list.
Yeah.
That's not much.
No.
See, but you can't convince me that's booming.
No. Well,
you know, they tout that tourists can even sleep in a room. Well, I would hope so if you're paying $380 a night.
Right.
And $380 a night, when you can get as many as 10 people in that house, is not that much.
Right.
Right.
But like Waverly Hills, I mean, back in the day, you could investigate Waverly Hills for not that much, and nowadays they charge an arm and a leg.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
a lot of places do nowadays.
Right.
Sound like I'm old nowadays.
Dr. Michelle Hanks, who's a New York University anthropologist, who's probably the first person who's out there in the field ghost hunting, says the money behind ghost hunting is growing. How would she know? Is she out there beating the pavement? Is she out there ghost hunting? Paying for haunted buildings?
Maybe.
In a vast unregulated landscape, any ghost hunting yahoo can claim that a site is haunted, which means it's a great money spinner for struggling towns. Civic leaders in Waco, Texas created an economic development plan to breathe new life into a sagging neighborhood. The centerpiece of the plan was turning an old bottling plant into the Dr. Pepper Museum, which would allow visitors to interact with the spirits of bottlers past. And soon enough, to boost its value, it declared it officially haunted.
Now, I've noticed that a lot of people buy places and declare it haunted just to make money.
It says here, but there's a dark side, not the ghouls, but the sensationalism of local history. One particularly troubling example of this can be found in the former slaver states of the American South, where financially struggling plantations increasingly rely on funds from ghost tours. In order to attract tourists, the plantations spin lurid tales that hinge on the mystery of enslaved people, or the misery, rather, not mystery, but misery of enslaved people. However, as MacArthur Fellow Taya Miles found in researching her book, Tales from the Haunted South, many of the stories told are either grossly inaccurate or wholly made up, often portraying the slave owners in far too sympathetic of a light. In thousands of tourist spots all over America, history is being rewritten for profit. Yet for many, ghosts are more than just valuable assets. Surveys suggest that nearly 2/3 of Americans hold supernatural beliefs, and my fellow tourists on the USS Salem seem to run the gamut, ranging from the secretly skeptical to the open-minded and curious to the heavily attuned. The author says, I overheard one young woman talking to her boyfriend about a tightness in her chest. I love this stuff, but at the same time, sometimes I hate what it does to me, she told him. I struck up a conversation with her. She was 22 and had been in a 9-year relationship with a child ghost who was perpetually 5 years old. She told me that her boyfriend was fine with her spiritual sensitivity. He knew that I could see dead people when we started going out, but he said it didn't matter. Her boyfriend didn't respond. Yeah. The author goes on to say, then there were the ghost hunters themselves, members of the GBPA, who I became convinced were acting in good faith when it came to interacting with the spirits aboard the ship. A soap opera style conversation about which spirit had previously scratched Zach, a young paratourist. Things were too disorganized and too spontaneous to be carefully choreographed. If they were play acting, it was world class. Besides, the rise of paratourism is part of a wider nationwide trend. Homegrown experts in ghost hunting and other paranormal pursuits, mediums, energy healers, cryptozoologists, and ufologists, among others, have attained new levels of prominence and power in the United States over the last 20 years, buoyed by a surge in public interest in supernatural phenomena. There are several reasons for this development. The emergence of bias-affirming digital information bubbles is one. Another is the rise of political instability. The annual Chapman University Survey of American Fears found that paranormal beliefs of all sorts spiked in the years following a certain president's 2016 election. They say between 2016 and 2018, Americans became approximately 10 percentage points more likely to believe that aliens had visited the Earth in modern times, 7 percentage points more likely to believe in Bigfoot, and 11 percentage points more likely to believe in haunted houses. Christopher Bader, the author of the study, put this down to a shift in the nature of trust, which faith in experience, in individual experience, replacing faith in intuition, faith in institutions. So basically he's saying that there's a shift in the nature of trust and faith in individual experience, replacing faith in institutions. I kind of biffed the line, but that's what he's saying. This heralds a dramatic sea change in the way Americans think about traditional power structures. Already distrust in corroding institutions, the underutilization of science-based medicines in America's rural areas, for instance, contributed to the closures of 136 hospitals between 2010 and 2021. I don't know that I blame that on power structures. I'd blame that on economy. And I'd blame that on shipping lanes. I'd blame that on COVID. I'd blame that on... There's a lot of things in here he's missing. He goes political at the end of this, which I won't, at the end of this article.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to where he says the role that the paranormal plays in this is underappreciated. To those who believe that they have encountered a spirit, they're faced with a mystery. Why does the scientific establishment dismiss the existence of something that seems self-evident to a majority of Americans? The common assumption is that science is either a poor tool to understand the universe or that mainstream scientists are engaged in a massive cover-up. This sets the stage for various conspiracy theories. One one poll showed that the percentage of New Hampshire residents who trust the federal government is slightly less than the percentage of Americans who think their government is run by Satan-worshipping pedophiles.
What?
I know, it's a weird article.
Oh, my God.
The danger is that American institutions cannot survive this era of widespread disbelief. They've kicked too many people out of the tent, and they can't simply debunk their way out of this crisis unless they take imaginative steps to rebuild public trust. Science must become just another disembodied voice haunting the minds of a credulous public. This thing is wildly all over the board, and it's a little dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's wildly all over the board in that it overestimates how much money, first of all, is going around in the paranormal field.
Yep.
There's not that much.
No.
Don't think that there's a gold mine sitting here waiting to be had. There's not. And there's a whole bunch of former TV hosts that'll tell you as much. A whole bunch of people who used to do TV that'll tell you it's not as lucrative as you think it is. The fact that they say, oh, equipment isn't that expensive, or it's, or it's too expensive, or whatever the boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people sitting on thousands of dollars worth of equipment that I hesitate.
When I first started, I bought everything.
Right.
I've got thousands of dollars sitting in my basement that I don't use anymore because now I'll just use a recorder and a flashlight.
There you go. and sometimes, as Mallie will tell you, you only need the basics, right?
Yep.
You can look
because otherwise you miss out on everything.
Right. You could sit there with a bunch of gadgets and sit in the dark and be looking at your gadgets and hope your gadgets will speak to you. But they're not infallible. Technology is not infallible, folks. And you can pay a whole lot of money to stare at a gadget and not get what you're looking for. Whereas, like Mallie just pointed out, two things. You bring them in the dark, you can get just as much as you can sitting on $4,000, $5,000 worth of equipment.
Yep. I would have missed out seeing the Hat Man and some other spirits had I been looking down at my equipment rather than just kind of sitting there and looking around.
Right. Again, I would strongly disagree with the article that the paranormal haunted industry is booming. There are haunted locations that are on the verge of closing, that are being snapped up by conglomerates and companies that are set up to swallow up as a whole. I watched this being done with radio, Mallie. I watched it done with radio in the 80s and 90s. A bunch of mom and pop shops that for decades and decades ran a successful, beautiful radio station with a great format that allowed talent to spread their wings and fly. Eventually were bought up by conglomerates, soulless conglomerates that made everything sound the same. It became jukeboxes. And now they're becoming dinosaurs because you can get the exact same thing streaming. People can, if they want to hear music lists, they can hear them online. There's no difference. And you don't have to listen to an irritating guy talking to your ear.
Well, I saw something, how it's going on right now with walking ghost tours.
Yeah.
How there's a certain company that's trying to infiltrate local walking tours in certain states.
And that conglomerate, we won't name them.
Correct.
But they're also building a portfolio of haunted places.
Yep.
They're starting to
supposedly
buy
with incorrect information too.
That's the allegation.
But for these walking tours that have been around for a long time and have a reputation, and they are mom and pop places that, that have kind of been around for a really long time, and then these people are coming in and supposedly have taken the tour and kind of learned how they do it, and then they take over, and now they're, a competitor. Mm-hmm. So they're going to take away the business. It's kind of sad.
And they have a model. They have a model where they come in and they operate the tour cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah. And it basically, it forces the mom and pop shop that's been there for years out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's some dangerous things that are said in this article that are not healthy. They don't portray things the way they are. We're not in a good spot right now, I think, in this field. We're just not, because paranormal TV right now is pushed by few and not many, right?
Yes.
It's pushed by dollars and not interest. And we're at a weird standstill right now as to how you get things on TV that you actually want to see.
Yeah.
The argument is, well, you want to see something, go to the internet. Mm-hmm. Okay, but then how long can internet creators survive? Because the pay scales for internet creators is not great, because the internet outlets now have figured out, well, you know what? We used to give a fair deal to internet creators who generated good numbers. But now we figured out we can put more money in our pockets if we pay less out to internet creators. Mm-hmm. So now that's going on. And, the role of capitalism keeps pushing on, and there has to be a new outlet for creators, and you have to keep jumping to new formats in order to find true talent, right?
Yeah. But did you see there's a certain paranormal investigator that has now gone to OnlyFans?
No.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Because they said that they weren't making enough money. They stopped doing YouTube, and then people were like, well, why don't you go to Patreon? And they flat out said that because you have to pay out certain percentages and all this stuff, that it wasn't worth it. So now they're doing OnlyFans, and people are like, why are you doing OnlyFans? That's not a good reputation. And they're like, well, we're not, taking off clothes or anything like that. It's just, it's a better deal for us. So basically you're saying you're doing it for the money. But yeah, they have gone to OnlyFans, and people are like, I am not making an account with OnlyFans.
Would this be a certain husband and wife team?
Yes, it is.
That happened to be on a certain TV show that's still in existence?
No.
No?
No, they haven't been on a show together.
No, I'm not saying they've been on a show, but the husband was.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I know who you're talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? They made the jump to OnlyFans?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Because I was like, that does not look good.
I just saw the wife getting recently political online. I thought that was a shock.
Yeah. You know my opinion, but we'll talk about that off air.
That's...
Because anyway.
Interesting.
She got a little feisty again. But yeah, they went on to OnlyFans. Mm-hmm. So now the paranormal is on OnlyFans.
Now the paranormal's on OnlyFans. Well, in the wrestling world for the longest time, because, wrestlers make their living with their bodies, it used to be, the big joke used to be, at least for female wrestlers, you want to make more money than you ever made in WWE, your next jump, your next line of work is OnlyFans. Because you can make 10 times the amount of money you make on OnlyFans, and you couldn't.
Oh, yeah, they can make a ton of money on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
But just the name OnlyFans is not a...
It's not, no, it's a derogatory term.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, it equals getting naked, let's face it.
Yeah. Even if you're not, that's your first thought.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, if... Let's turn it on the world of the paranormal. Let's say as far as everybody that was ever on Discovery or
right
or any of the Discovery channels, Warner Brothers Discovery. If we said, okay, you know what would be a great outlet? OnlyFans, right? You think you're
Right.
done with your career over there? Well, if you don't want to compete with, with Warner Brothers Discovery and you need a place to make money, maybe you should just get an OnlyFans account. Can you imagine? No offense, Jay, you're a friend, but can you imagine Jay Haas stripping down on OnlyFans? I mean, come on.
But as a subscriber, I don't want to have an account with OnlyFans. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just not my style. But like my husband would be like, well, he'd probably be excited, be like, ooh, my wife's getting kinky. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, this is not her. This isn't my wife normally. But I don't want to open up an account, with OnlyFans.
Yeah.
So
and I think the idea
for paranormal.
Right. I think the idea before it got extremely X-rated was it was supposed to be a legit site for OnlyFans. It was supposed
Right.
It was supposed to be a legit site, but it didn't go that way because again, give kids a powerful toy, they'll find an evil way to use it, right?
Right. Yeah, because wasn't it supposed to be just more of an intimate thing with like a star, like your
Yep.
Yep.
It was supposed to be a place where people of notoriety could go and have an intimate connection with their fans.
Intimate,
Yeah. And the porn industry found it and said, you know what, we can monetize this because it's got a billing structure to it where we can directly charge them for whatever we do.
Yeah. And then they just make millions, these people do.
Yeah. Oh, there was one female wrestler that when she was done with her WWE days, literally done the next week, joins an OnlyFans model.
Yeah.
It wasn't OnlyFans, but it was a similar site. Makes $1 million in the first month she's away from WWE.
Yeah.
$1 million.
Yep.
She didn't make that in a year at WWE. She didn't make that in 2 years in WWE.
Yeah. Just for like a couple hours a day or however long it is, or I don't know the time. Like,
if that,
Yeah.
So, that just goes to show you that there's, for that industry, there's that draw there. For our industry, probably not. but that says something about the power of the people you watch on television, right? That people want that closeness. They want that. They want that relationship. It shocks me a little bit that the people we're talking about thought OnlyFans was a legit way to get closer to their audience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made that move. But,
right. I would think you would just do like Facebook Live or something, because then you're just talking straight to the people.
Or you know what? There's a feature on TikTok where people can give.
Oh yeah, you can do that live too. Yeah.
You can do stars. People can give you stars and gifts and stuff like that, and they can contribute if you want to do live stuff with them that way.
Yeah, maybe. But from my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, I think it was just you just got more money doing OnlyFans, like paying out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. Anyway,
it
kind of sounds like it was about the money.
Yeah, or the
way they were explaining it to people.
I think there's more of a salacious promise there. I think the idea that maybe there was more coming that wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
so
what
anyway.
that was all about.
But anyway,
we'll move on here.
Yes.
Speaking of salacious, what do you think about fairies? I don't know what that means, but
I don't necessarily believe in them, but I'll still practice whatever it is, so I don't want to tick them off just in case they do exist.
There you go. It's a good way of looking at it. Again, I've said it many times on the show, Rosemary Ellen Guiley was the one who, when I laughed in her face about fairies, went, I wouldn't laugh so fast if I were you.
Yeah. Yep. I'll still respect them just in case they do exist.
Yeah, she's the one who had a serious talk with me about fairies. Tried to set me in my place. I have a story here that, again, we'll put in the description of this program and finish it there so you can read the entire thing about abductions by fairies and fairy imposters. We'll give you just a little taste here. Fairy lore goes back centuries and can be found in a wide variety of diverse cultures, although the modern image of fairies is that of benevolent, glittering winged beings flitting and cavorting amongst the trees of the forest. The attitude towards fairies also varied greatly from tradition to tradition. In some accounts, fairies have a rather mischievous, even malevolent undertone, and in some lore, these entities are seen as a being very real indeed. Now, one early account of a fairy abduction involves a young woman named Anne Jeffreys of the parish of St. Teith, Cornwall, in England. Born in 1626 to a poor laborer, she had always been a bright and inquisitive girl with a wild and active imagination. One of the things that really captured her attention and became almost a sort of obsession for her were all of the various tales of fairies that were all around her. The lore of her area was steeped in such tales, but for her, this was more than just stories. As a child, she would spend much of her time out in the woods trying to find the elusive entities and commune with them. And this habit would continue right up until she was a young woman, when she came to live as a servant in the family of a Mr. Moses Pitt and his wife, Joan, where she did domestic duties and also served as a nanny and nurse to the couple's 2 young children. At 19 years of age, she was going out into the forest at all of the time after her chores in her free time, looking for fairies and pixies, singing out to them in hopes that she would get some sort of a response to validate her belief that they were in fact real. Little did she know that her efforts were not completely in vain and that she was being watched. Now, according to the tale, one day Anne was out knitting at the Pitt home when she suddenly went into a convulsive fit that left her ill and bedridden. Several days passed with her in an unconscious state, and when she woke, she would have quite the tale to tell. She would relate to the family and those around her that she had been out there knitting when she had heard laughter and had looked around to find 6 diminutive men in green outfits and hats and with unusually bright eyes, led by one with a red feather in his cap that had crawled out of the bushes to approach her. The leader of the group had been unafraid of her, jumping into her palm and then up onto her shoulder to kiss her neck and hair. And before long, all of them were crawling all over her. That was when one of them had put his hands over her eyes, after which she had felt a prickling sensation, and then all had gone dark. The next thing she remembered was waking to someone shouting, "Tear, tear." And when she looked around herself, she saw that she was upon a grassy knoll in an unfamiliar, fantastical land of places, temples and lush gardens, as well as azure lakes and a plenitude of brightly colored birds and other animals frolicking about. She was then dressed in an ornate flowing silk dress and led to a palace where there were fairy folk everywhere eating and drinking and dancing. It would seem that she was there in this strange land for many days, during which time she fell in love with the fairy with the red feather in his hat. So she gets kidnapped and falls in love with a small man in a hat.
Yeah.
This made the other ferryman jealous, or all of the ferrymen jealous, and they followed them around everywhere they went. One day, a mob of these ferrymen would surround them, and as her fairy lover tried to defend her, Anne once again found herself losing consciousness, fading to black, and she was immersed in a thrumming vibration that shook her entire body and a buzzing in her ears. The last thing she saw before everything went dark was her fairy lover lying wounded on the ground. When she woke this time, she was back where she had started, the fairies nowhere to be seen. She was at the time disoriented, and when her family members found her, she was going into convulsive fits. Oddly, although many days had passed for Anne, it seemed as if no time had passed at all in the real world. For the next few weeks, she would be ill in bed, moving between unconsciousness and lucidity, and she would demonstrate some side effects of the bizarre ordeal. It seems as though she had developed certain clairvoyant abilities, such as reading the future and knowing who was at the door. She also said that she could frequently see the fairies lurking about, although no one else could. and she had also gained the ability to heal people by touching them. On one occasion, curing a person's injured leg just by laying hands upon it, and soon people were coming from far and wide, coming to be healed by her hands. Such was her purported powers that she was kept by a prisoner at the house, or she was kept as a prisoner at the house of the mayor of Bodmin for a time on charges of being a witch, although never formally charged with witchcraft, which was what the whispered rumors were saying. Increasingly, another power she apparently had was to go without food for long periods, yet remain healthy and vigorous, insisting that the fairies were keeping her fed. Also, they're sneaking her food. The case made quite a stir back in the time, and Anne herself would go on to marry a man named William Warren and fade from the spotlight, refusing to talk to anybody about her experiences or perform any more healing magic. The story would go on to be spoken of throughout the area ever since, with a letter from Moses Pitt, her benefactor's son, to the Right Reverend Dr. Edward Fowler, Bishop of Gloucester, setting it in stone. Anne Jeffreys would die in 1698, taking any secrets to the grave with her and having avoided talking about her experience for most of her life. What was going on here? Is it just a folk tale, or is there something more to it? It's unknown, and the case has become embedded in local myth without a real answer in sight. Was this actual fairies, interdimensional interlopers, or possibly an alien abduction? Or was it just a hoax in the ramblings of a misguided young woman, or even just pure folklore? There's no way to know, and whatever the case may be, it remains one of the weirder tales of fairies that there is. What do you think, Mal? Hallucination?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it. Fairies being jealous of each other.
It may be. It may be. There's another tale here of another abduction. And again, I'm going to post the article so you can read it. It's about the abduction of a woman. I believe her name is Annie McIntyre. And it's even more bizarre and darker than what I just read. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. Again, it's much bigger in Europe than it is here. Mm-hmm. And much more believed there. But
right.
We'll find out. We'll find out what you guys think. We'll post it and let you read it. Interesting stuff. Mm-hmm. Another type of believer in the Philippines. There's a crowd of worshipers that are stunned as they believe Jesus appeared to them in the clouds. The heavenly spectacle was filmed over the Philippines earlier this month during a celebratory gathering. Catholic worshipers who had been out to celebrate National Youth Day in Naga City on June 14th got more than they bargained for when a very unusual cloud formation suddenly appeared overhead. Resembling a robed figure, the formation quickly drew attention, with onlookers becoming convinced that what they saw was the shape of Jesus himself in the sky. The phenomenon quickly made local headline news, and footage of the spectacle went viral online. But was this really a sign from above, or could the cloud formation have simply been a case of pareidolia, or the brain's innate ability to perceive meaningful shapes and abstract patterns? Again, there's a clip of this, so we'll throw this one up too. It's going to be a record day for throwing clips up online, or Mallie. So we'll see what people think. We'll see if Jesus really was in the clouds and if he was coming down on a youth day. And if he was, do you think he was taking people to the fairies? That's what I want to know. Maybe it was a mixed bag here, Mal. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so last week on True Crime, not on True Crime Tuesday, on True Crime Tuesday, we had talked about a man in Utah who claimed he was going after a man because he thought he was a werewolf.
Okay.
We reported on the crime side of it. We didn't talk about the supernatural side of it. But a Utah man arrested after attacking what he called a werewolf with a wooden stake. The man, who hails from Salt Lake City, reportedly threatened to pierce the heart of his unsuspecting victim. The incident came to light when police officers were called out on the afternoon of Sunday, June 14th, to attend a disturbance involving 24-year-old Jose Manuel Perez. According to reports, Perez had been having lunch with another man when he suddenly took out a wooden stake with a nail protruding from it and started attacking him. I don't know who carries this around with them just randomly, but evidently he had one. After placing the victim in a chokehold, he proceeded to threaten to pierce him through the heart with a stake because he had become convinced that the man was in fact a werewolf. Fortunately, the victim was able to break free and escape. When officers caught up to Perez, he was in possession of the other man's backpack and maintained that he believed the werewolf had intended to kill him. In the end, he was booked on one count of aggravated robbery. Exactly why he believed the other man was a werewolf remains unclear.
Okay.
Do you have a lot of people in your circle, Mallie, that you believe are werewolves?
No.
I don't either. Not a big belief. My end of town. Just not, Just not a big belief. I'm not running around thinking people I have lunch with are werewolves and I'm going to take this spiked board I have with me and pierce their hearts.
Yeah. I mean, I got a couple family members that are really hairy, but that's
as
close as I get.
I got a little more body hair than usual, but I'm not running around with people, trying to put a silver bullet in me. I don't know that much. At least not yet. Now that I've made the confession, I should probably be more careful. Our next story has to do with a dragon man fossil that turns out to be the world's only Denisovan skull, or Denisovan. You decide what the pronunciation is. A fossilized skull discovered in the 1930s has now been identified as that of an elusive ancient species of human. Originally unearthed by a construction worker during the building of a bridge across the Songhua River in Harbin, China, the skull, named Dragon Man, only came to light when the man's family decided to donate it to the Hebei Gyo University in, this is Zhejiang back in 2018. I believe that's the name of the city, Mallie. My Chinese may be a bit rusty. In 2021, researchers declared that it belonged to a new species of human, Homo longi. But as it would turn out, there was more to the skull than met the eye. Now, 2 new studies headed up by paleontologist Qiamai Fu from the Chinese Academy of Sciences has revealed that the skull, far from being that of a new species, is actually that of a Denisovan, making this the first known skull of the species ever identified. Before this, all we had to go on was to understand that the Denisovans were new fossil fragments. To identify the skull, the team extracted proteins from the petrous bone as well as mitochondrial DNA from the plaque on its teeth. And there had to be quite a bit there for it to be quite old. The finding that the human DNA of the Harbin species is better preserved in the dental calculus than in dense bones, including the petrous bone, suggests that the dental calculus may be a valuable source for investigating DNA in metal Pleistocene hominins, the research wrote. The findings indicated that the Denisovans were not that unlike other species of ancient humans from the time, although further fossil discoveries could change the conclusion in the future. The DNA also helped to more conclusively identify other fossil fragments as that same genome. As for Homo longi, however, sadly, it seems that this particular human ancestor never actually existed. So that's kind of interesting indeed. All right. Elsewhere in archaeology, an ancient 5,000-year-old manuscript with a terrifying message is discovered in a Saqqara tomb in Egypt. Archaeologists conducting Kentucky. That's right in the south there, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Archaeologists conducting excavations in Egypt's Saqqara region have discovered a 5,000-year-old manuscript containing a terrifying message, according to the Mirror, unearthed inside a sealed sarcophagus hidden deep within the catacombs of the necropolis. The manuscript features hieratic and early hieroglyphic writings filled with secrets ranging from the origins of humanity to cosmic order. The researchers are utilizing artificial intelligence. See, I don't trust it already. Supported translation systems and advanced imaging technologies to decipher the complex text. The task is daunting due to the manuscript's age and the scarcity of preserved analogs from that era. Many of the symbols remain unsolved, posing challenges to modern scientists eager to unlock its mysteries. Preliminary analysis indicated that the manuscript included predictions of catastrophic events that could bring to an end civilization. It describes recurring patterns of destruction that may have befallen past societies, suggesting that humanity is perpetuating the same mistakes. Central to its message is the notion that every human action directs the fate of all humanity, emphasizing the interconnectedness of individual behaviors and collective destiny. Notably, the text warns that immoral individuals may face a grim fate instead of peaceful rest after death. It highlights the connection between earthly life and the afterlife, underscoring the role of humans in the cosmic order. A prominent message declares, if the wisdom of the ancestors is not listened to, humanity will repeat the same mistakes and the consequences will be devastating. Some scholars suggest that the manuscript may be linked to the mythical Book of Enoch, containing fragments of knowledge about the creation of humanity and symbolic predictions about the future. The possible connection has sparked considerable interest, as it could provide insights into the philosophical and religious ideas characteristic of the earliest civilizations. In addition to the manuscript, archaeologists, boy, it's getting late. Archaeologists uncovered skulls of mummified corpses within the tombs, adding to the enigma of the find. Among these discoveries is a mummified skull dubbed the Screaming Mummy, noted for its horrifying facial expression. Researchers believe that this corpse may bear traces of intense pain experienced at the moment of death, further deepening the mysteries surrounding the site. The tomb also revealed strange patterns of tomb energy, which scientists are now investigating. These findings may offer important clues about the functioning and survival strategies of ancient Egyptian societies, potentially reshaping our understanding of their mastery over cosmic order and cycles. Experts assert that the data obtained from this discovery could fundamentally change our comprehension not only of ancient Egypt, but of all human history. The manuscript, dating back to a time even before Egypt's great dynasties, is a rare finding due to the scarcity of documents from such an early period in well-preserved condition. According to archaeologists, the document could serve as a turning point both historically and philosophically. If other parts of the text can be deciphered, it might completely rewrite what we know about human civilization's development. Some researchers propose that the text could contain elements of knowledge that influence later religious traditions, including certain apocryphal writings, which for some reason I wanted to twist in my mind and make one word. Don't ask me why. They'll be using different modern methods, Mallie, to try and decipher these writings. I don't know that I like that. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Whenever you try to look at a language and you think you know what it means already, but then you bring in a modern technology that gets half of it wrong anyways, whenever you're using current language, I just don't think it works. I don't think it can work. We're getting down to the end of the program, and there's an interesting story out there that asks the question, if nobody had kids, how long would it take for us to go extinct as a race? It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick answer on this.
Okay.
There is an article that's written out there that says very few people. Oh God, it's time to wrap this thing up. Very few people live beyond a century, it says here. So if no one had babies anymore, there would probably be no humans left on Earth within 100 years, you would think. But first, the population would shrink as older folks died and no one was being born. Even if all births were to cease and suddenly cease, this decline would start slowly. So eventually there would not be enough young people coming of age to do essential work, causing societies throughout the world to fall apart quickly. Some of these breakdowns would be in humanity's ability to produce food, provide health care, and do everything else that we rely on. Food would become scarce even though there would be fewer people to feed. Now, the man who wrote this article is an anthropology professor. And he says he spent his career studying human behavior, biology, and cultures. And he readily admits that this would not be a pretty picture. Eventually, civilization would crumble. It's likely there would be many people left within 70 or 80 years rather than 100. Or there would not be many people left within 70 to 80 years rather than 100, due to shortages of food, clean water, prescription drugs, and everything else that you can easily buy today or need to survive, due to the fact that as we age, it'd be harder to produce. So within 70 to 80 years, here come the shortages, and here come the people that are dying.
Okay.
To get to the heart of it, as it is right now, we're heading towards a world population of 10 billion. Mm-hmm. So what do you narrow it down to, right? Although we do have declining birth rates right now. We don't have enough young people doing the do.
Yeah.
Especially here in America, which is surprising because I think as old folks, we think young people are always doing it. Right? But it turns out there's a lot of good kids out there. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. Or they're playing video games. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way things are. So as it stands right now, birth rates are declining in the U.S. They're up in other countries. And the world is getting higher in population. We are going towards 10 billion. Slowly but surely. I think we're at 8 something, if I remember right.
Okay.
But we're slowly reaching 10 billion. But the short answer here to this article is it would take about 70 to 80 years if everyone stopped procreating as of right now. And depending on, human compatibility, ingenuity, and if we had a spirit of togetherness, if we banded together and decided we wanted to save the human race, it could be a shorter amount of time than that. Mm-hmm. Interesting article, huh?
Yeah, very.
Yeah. I thought it was. It's it's one of those things where you go, it's not, it doesn't sound promising, but it's reality, right? Mm-hmm. It's that thing that says, when you think about it realistically, you look to your neighbor to your left, your neighbor to your right, how well do you really know them? And if we had a crisis today where we had to depend on each other, could you really look to your left and to your right and say, I know they have my back?
Right. But then again, we'll be dead by then, so hey. Not a problem.
Wow. Well, that's Mallie putting the positive spin on it. That's for sure. So I saw something interesting last week, and maybe you saw it too, Mallie. The 50th anniversary of Jaws on NBC. Did you see the movie showing?
No, I didn't see that it was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, it's the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And last Friday, they played the movie on NBC, on the network. Mm-hmm. And there's an interesting introduction by Steven Spielberg. In the introduction, Steven Spielberg said, I truly believed when they put this movie in my hands, it would be the first movie I'd produce and the last movie I'd produce and direct. That this would be it. That it'd be the end of my career. He truly thought he was going to fail and fail miserably. That the task at hand was probably too big. And that maybe people wouldn't get it. But the myth of the monster shark over 50 years, I think, has probably been debunked by now. There's an interesting article out there about that as well. The person who writes the article is a little skeptical about the movie in itself. I think we should call it what it is. It was a masterpiece of its time, right? Mm-hmm. It scared people into thinking it wasn't safe to go into the water. I know to this day, I still don't want to go into the water because of sharks. Keep in mind, I was 5 years old when this movie came out.
Yeah, that scared all of us, though.
Yeah. And I still, to this day, whenever somebody says they see a shark in the water, I'm out. When you jump in the ocean, I'm like, nope, not taking the chance. I still don't want to swim in the ocean to this point. to this day because of seeing that movie. And people point out that, sharks, the bite rate to humans of sharks to humans and the fact that they go after humans is rare. That's not their main predatory food. That you shouldn't have to worry about that. But you see it in the news. Another shark has gone after another human.
Yeah.
And you go and somebody ends up getting bit, losing limbs, barely surviving. And it's scary, right? But sharks also have a vast array of superpowers that scientists have only recently discovered. They have electroreceptive pores located around their heads and jaws. They have amazing sensory capabilities, allowing sharks to detect weak electrical fields emitted from hidden prey. Their skin is protected with an armor of tiny teeth called dermal denticles, composed of sensitive dentin, that also allows for better drag-reducing hydrodynamics. Biologists and engineers are also using this shark skin technology to design hydrodynamic and aerodynamic solutions for future fuel-efficient vehicles. Who knew? Some sharks are biofluorescent, meaning that they emit light in different wavelengths after absorbing natural blue light. This emitted fluorescent color pattern suggests visual communication and recognition among members of the same species and is possible in dark depths. Sharks can migrate across huge global distances. For example, a silky shark, which I take it listens to a lot of R&B, was recorded traveling 17,000 miles over a year and a half. That's a distance. Sharks never stop swimming. Mm-hmm. Hammerhead sharks can even hone in on the Earth's magnetic field to help them navigate. Another impressive feat. Greenland sharks exhibit a lengthy aging process and live for hundreds of years. Scientists estimated that one individual was 392 years old, give or take 120 years. Look at that. There's lots of interesting things about sharks, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to attacks, Jaws was filmed on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. They cite here that the populations of sharks there have recovered well over recent years in response to more seals in the area and recovering fish stocks. You might assume more sharks would mean more attacks, especially on humans. But that's not what they observe. Shark attacks have always been few and far between in Massachusetts and elsewhere, and they remain rare. It's only a Jaws-perpetuated myth that sharks have a taste for humans. Sure, they might mistake a person for prey. For instance, surfers and swimmers can mimic the appearance of seals on the surface. Sharks in murky water might opportunistically take a test bite to see what seems to be prey. But these attacks are rare enough that people can shed their Jaws-driven irrational fear of sharks. Almost all sharks are timid, and the likelihood of an altercation, let alone a negative one, is incredibly rare. Importantly, there are more than 500 species of sharks in the world's oceans. Each one is a unique member of a particular ecosystem with a vital role. Sharks come in all shapes and sizes and inhabit every ocean, both the shallow and deep end ecosystems. More recorded human-shark interactions are awe-inspiring and not terrifying. Sharks don't really care about people. At most, they may be curious and not hungry for human flesh. Whether or not Jaws fans have grown beyond the fear of the movie monster sharks, we're going to need a bigger conversation in order to continue to protect the important ocean guardians. So in other words, it was an irrational fear, even though you have Megalodon that is out there now.
Right.
That huge shark that, for some reason, Jason Statham can't get.
Was that Meg?
Yeah, Meg, yes.
Meg?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's not although it's a real species, it's not a real threat. So you can, as we used to hear as a kid, you can calm your tits about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a real threat either. So yeah, you're not going to get hunted by a Meg out there. Mm-hmm. All right, I promised you a palate cleanser after we tried to calm your fears about sharks. Mm-hmm. So let's tell you about, let's go from one big shark who had big teeth to another big shark in the art world who had big bronze balls.
Okay.
We say goodbye today to Arnaldo Pomodoro. Poor man. Mm-hmm. He took his big bronze balls all over the world, Mallie.
Okay.
He was a decorate prominent who had giant bronze spheres.
Okay.
And he set the public art world on fire by going to different prominent public spaces around the world and set his big bronze balls down there.
Okay.
That's what he did. Arnaldo Pomodoro is one of Italy's most prominent contemporary artists whose bronze spheres decorate iconic public spaces from the Vatican to the United Nations, and died at age 98 this past week. Pomodoro died at home in Milan on Sunday, the eve of his 99th birthday, according to a statement from Carlotta Montebello, who's Director General of the Arnaldo Pomodoro Foundation. Pomodoro's massive spheres, at least that's what he claimed, are instantly recognizable. Mallie, his massive spheres are shiny, smooth bronze globes with clawed-out interiors that Pomodoro has said he referred to as the superficial perfection of exteriors and the troubled complexity of interiors. Have you ever had a man claim his bronze spheres were much like that?
No.
Okay.
I have not had the pleasure of that.
Okay. In a note of condolences, Italian culture minister Alessandro Giuli said Pomodoro's wounded spheres speak to us today of the fragility and complexity of the human and the world. The Vatican spheres, which occupy a central place in the Pigna courtyard of the Vatican museums, feature an internal mechanism that rotates with the wind. So his bronze balls are flying in the wind.
Yeah, blowing in the wind.
Yes. They're getting a constant blowjob, Mallie.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my work, I see the cracks, the eroded parts, the destructive potential that emerges from our time of disillusionment, the Vatican quoted Pomodoro as saying about its sphere. The United Nations in New York received a 3.3 meter or 10-foot 8-inch diameter sphere within sphere sculpture as a gift from Italy in 1996. The UN sphere has referred to the coming of the new millennium, the UN said. A smooth exterior womb erupted by complex interior forms and a promise of the rebirth of less troubled and destructive world, Pomodoro said of it. Other spheres located at museums around the world and outside the Italian Foreign Ministry, which has the original work that Pomodoro created in 1966 for the Montreal Expo that began his monumental sculpture project. Pomodoro was born in Montefeltro, Italy on June 23rd of 1926. In addition to his spheres, he designed theatrical sets and projects and machines. He had multiple retrospectives and taught at Stanford University, the University of California at Berkeley, and Mills College, according to his biography on the Foundation website. We'll miss you, Mr. Pomodoro. Your giant bronze spheres awed us. And they float in the wind, evidently. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they get blown quite often. This is what we hear. Yeah, at least from the Vatican. So he'll be missed at the age of 98. Last week, Mallie, I mentioned to Jess, I didn't get a chance to mention to you, I have yet another famous relative, speaking of the Vatican.
Oh, okay.
It turns out that I thought it was my 11th cousin. It's not. My 10th cousin is Pope Leo.
Ah, look at you.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have what we call the Spaghetti Summit. I'm gonna go over there to the Vatican. I'm gonna bring a big batch of spaghetti with me, and we're gonna speak Italian to each other. Yeah, in a Chicago accent.
So I was gonna say, are you just gonna name off an Italian menu?
Yes. I might bring some. I might bring some Italian beef sandwiches with me because he is originally from Chicago. So, yeah, I might bring a popular Italian beef sandwich with me from the region. I might bring a big tub of spaghetti with me. And we'll sit down and we'll talk who's better, White Sox or Twins.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think it's time to go meet my cousin. And of course, I will talk in a Chicago accent for him to make him feel at home. And I know he will, of course, as all popes do, he will speak to me, Mallie, in his Italian accent. As every pope since the beginning of time has spoken an Italian accent. So
Gotcha.
it'll be a good meeting. I'm going to get so much hate mail for that.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. All right. A couple of reminders for you as we exit today's program. Right now, if you go to darknessradioshow.com to the events section, there's a link for Potographs for Pooches at the Palmer House. The second annual is up right now. It is August 1st and 2nd. Myself, Tim and Lauren Miley, and Scotty Rorick will all be there August 1st and 2nd. Tickets are already half gone for it. They went on sale last week. Boom, half gone already. We want to sell this thing out, folks. All the proceeds go to the animal shelter in St. Cloud, which, as you know, if you listen every other week on KNSI, St. Cloud is my second home away from home. And we're going to help animals in St. Cloud this time around. So if you can, come join us, please. August 1st and 2nd. We're going to have a good time out there. We're going to ghost hunt the Palmer. And we're going to hang out and have a good time. That's what we're going to do. So come join us out there at the Palmer. Again, go to darknessradioshow.com, click on the events tab. You'll see the banner there, or just go to potographsforpooches.com. The tickets are available there as well. Either way, we'll get you to the tickets for that event. Second, if you're listening to the show on audio and you want to join us on video, it's real simple. Darknessradioshow.com, click on the show that you're interested in. Both the audio and video should be there. Click on the video and watch us, and be sure to like and subscribe afterwards. Or the other way is real simple. Go to YouTube, the original Darkness Radio. Click the like and subscribe button. Do both, and join us over there on video on YouTube. The original Darkness Radio is the channel over there on YouTube. All right. What else? The Darkness Radio app for Apple. Available, updated. Join us over there as well. If you don't have a place where you regularly get the podcast on audio, you can do so by going to the Apple Store and downloading the Darkness Radio app. We don't have one for Android, unfortunately, right now, but we do for Apple. Go get it there. Let's see, Mallie. I think that's it for right now. I can tell you about tomorrow's show, though.
Oh, very cool. Please do.
Tomorrow's show. Are you ready for this? It's story time on tomorrow's show.
Oh.
Yeah. We have an interesting guest in tomorrow, in that I don't necessarily, I have a first name for him, but I don't have his full name because he's appearing under the name of his podcast.
Okay.
I know, right? You may say, well, Tim, that's kind of weird, right? Kind of bizarre. But this particular gentleman has written a brand new book under the name of his podcast. And it is a spooky stories book. So we're going to tell spooky stories tomorrow. And it's going to be an interesting time. I've started reading this book, and the stories in it are truly scary, truly fascinating. It's one of those books that you're going to sit down with and on a dark and stormy night, and it's going to chill you. So we'll tell you more about the book. We'll tell you more about the podcast tomorrow and how they came up with these scary stories on tomorrow's show. And I know you guys may think, well, is this a lot like Jim Harold's Campfire? No, it's in a different vein. So we'll explain more tomorrow. I'll tell you what sets them apart from Jim Harold and Campfire. But it's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So lots of spooky, scary stories tomorrow on the show. So we're bringing it back old school tomorrow. What you think about that, Mel?
I like it.
Good stuff?
I like it. Yep.
Good deal.
I like the old school.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, that'll do it for Mallie Fox. I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. And again, if you have a Parashare story you want to share with us, send it in. tim@darknessradio.com. We'll see you tomorrow for some spooky stories right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.